Computer.
This meeting is being recorded.
Like, I don't want to be on. What's up, Naomi? How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Pretty good. I think the last time, I don't know if we spoke about it on the podcast or not, but you were about to leave to meet. What were you about to do?
I was going to San Francisco for the first time in a while. I was going to meet some friends, meet my boyfriend's family and friends as well for the first time. So there was that fun thing in the midst of basically a rainstorm happening in San Francisco.
How did that go? Break it down to us, everything, like as far as the rainstorm. I know you went to Napa too, but at the same time, how was it meeting your boyfriend's parents for the first time?
It was awesome, actually. They're such absolute sweethearts and like so welcoming. So when I landed, one of my best friends from college lives out there, and I hadn't seen her new home that she bought during COVID. So it's been a few years since I've been out there. Spent the evening with her, and then the next like 36 hours spent with him and his family. And it wasn't like it was a lot, like just in terms of like 36 hours straight, but they were just like absolutely delightful and like some of the kindest people like I've met. So it felt
Yeah.
very, very welcome. And then he's from out there, so he has like a massive like high school, middle school friend base as well as like a college base and so on and so forth. So I just got overloaded with so many friends that I just met in like 72 hours.
Yeah.
And everyone was so sweet. And I've heard about them for like so long. And then it was nice to finally put faces to the names, personalities to the stories, and all of that. But um, as an introvert, part of me is just so excited to be kind of back and like have a moment to recharge, but definitely an amazing weekend.
You say you're an introvert? You would say you're like, yeah, that's on me.
I'm an extroverted introvert.
Okay.
Meaning, like, I don't mind socializing. I like it, but in order to reset, like, I definitely need to be by myself.
Oh
And if
yeah.
I don't get that moment to reset, like, I don't think anyone should be around me.
No, I get you. Yeah, we all need to kind of like a moment to reset. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
did you feel like you got a lot of work done while you were over there? Or you got a little bit or anything?
This was actually so I was in Cabo before, and I was able to like kind of balance out a little bit better. Sort of like the time difference with me being my office being in the East Coast and being out west, because there was only a 2 hour difference, and that didn't seem like as big of a deal. So when I was working at 7 in the morning Cabo time, it was 9 a.m. East Coast time, and that was totally fine. But then when I was in San Francisco, it was a 3 hour time difference, and so like waking up like 5, 6 in the morning to match the time out there just absolutely kind of sucked. And I was starting to get messages at like 3, 4 in the morning from like the project manager, from this person or from that person. And I was like, oh my gosh. So there was a couple times I was definitely waking up a little bit earlier than everyone just to get stuff done.
Yeah. Did you get stuff done or not? You kind of like, yeah.
Actually, yeah. I kind of really I needed to. I don't think I really had a choice. And like luckily everyone was like really understanding about it. But we I don't know if you all remember, but we had a flood. And
Mhm.
so we're trying to do all the repairs in order to be able to open in 3 weeks. That includes like getting that inspector in so I can get that certificate of occupancy. Um, Now that we're in the midst of those repairs, we're just dealing with like the insurance, trying to get like, the air gas people to finally come in and like cabinets, and it's all like the decisions that you have to make. And I'm like, okay, I have to make it by 8 a.m. Your time, but like I need to look at everything. So like let me wake up at 3, 4 San Francisco time and
Yeah.
I'll like get everything to you. Just give me like one moment.
Man, that's a lot. I know
Yeah.
before we started recording, you were kind of saying like how you brought your laptop and you were like, I'm gonna
Mm.
get a lot done. But it's harder, I think, especially when you're like, let's just say you're on vacation, right? And you're trying to get that done. I think it's hard, but it's even harder if you're like your mission for travel is not business. You know what I mean? Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. I think like I realized maybe it's just the way I operate from or how I've always operated, but I do better in like a time crunch. So knowing I only had those like couple hours before everyone else woke up, I was like, all right, like let me get everything out. Boom, boom, boom. And then I think the idea of like bringing my laptop on the 6 hour flight was just an utter fail because it was too much time available to me. I mean, granted, I also just didn't want to pay for the internet, which was like its own thing. But I'm also wondering if I did get like truly free internet, would I have been like as productive as I would have been in like a 2 hour time span?
Yeah. No, I get, that's the thing. Like, are you the type of person where you're like, okay, yeah, I'll buy the $2,000 thing, and then they're like, and if you want it like with insurance or something, it's gonna be like an extra $10, and you're like, oh no, 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 like I don't need that. Like, you,
100%. I'm like, okay, there is totally a way. I'll sit there and I'm like, all right, there has to be a way that I can like avoid those extra costs. So I'll wait either for the sale, I'll look for all those promo codes. There's just like something about it that's just like so irking to me.
yeah, like the extra, you're like, oh, like Amazon's like, hey, do you want the Affirm insurance or whatever for this thing? And you're like, no, $5. Yeah, right. That's now it's too
Right?
much. 1,000 is
Oh,
fine, but $1,005? No, it's too much now. But I get you.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then whenever you're like, I feel like whenever I'm on a plane, right, and I decide to like watch a movie or like kind of space out or something, do you ever
Mhm.
feel like you become more productive after that? You're like, oh, I needed that creative, or I don't know, I just needed that you know what I mean, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, totally. I think my mind is just like go, 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 like all the time. And I think right now it's like really intensely going go, go, go all the time. So trying to find those like little pockets of time to like kind of numb my brain down so that the activity sort of chills out. It's totally watching like reality TV shows, a movie or something like that. And then after I like get that moment to reset, suddenly that to-do list, while it's still like really long, it just seems like a little bit more like attainable or like at least a little bit more structured, while before it's like my mind's like spastic and going everywhere.
Yeah, I feel like we're at those times we're like we're running on fumes kind of thing, right? And we're not as productive or we're not doing great things, and then we're just doing things when we could probably be recharging, and then like for that 1 hour be like mega productive, you know? I don't know. That's
Yeah.
just my thought.
Actually, I when I was in Cabo, I was reading Atomic Habits. I don't know. Yeah, I've read it before, but it was like years ago. So I think like when I was a student, it didn't really like hit me as well. But now that it's there, just like those ideas of like kind of creating those like small moments in the day, I'm trying to be a little bit more mindful of it because I'm pretty sure as soon as this office opens, not. I'm sure tons of things are going to be coming my way. So I'm just trying to figure out like right now, while it's not as chaotic, to find a way to kind of handle those sort of moments.
Yeah,
And so I
man,
think,
that's a
yeah,
really good
watching
book.
I think movie, I know it's so good, right? And it's
Yeah,
I read it and I'm like, yeah, duh. Like, of course a habit is like formed this way. But then I think when you try to implement it into your actual like day, you sort of realize how difficult it actually can be.
yeah. I thought it was really true when he says like we tend to stick to habits more when they like make our identity kind of thing, right? So if it's like, oh, I love working out, so you're gonna make sure you work out because you made it part of your identity or whatever,
Yeah.
like that. I thought that was kind of pretty interesting, you know?
Yeah, I never thought about it that way, to be honest. Like the whole working out one was there. I think they also related it to diet. Like I'm going to eat healthy so that I can be like skinny, and that is like your um, identity, like being like a skinny person. And it's
Mhm.
kind of like an interesting way to like view habits. I guess sometimes like we're always trying to be productive because we're like, hey, I want to be that productive person. I want to be the person who's go, go, go all the time and can get XYZ done. And it's like, oh, I don't know. Maybe that's not actually the best habit to have.
Yeah. If you think about it, in the long run, like the people who are coolest or like closest to you, who really like you, they don't like that habit about you. Like they're like, yeah, you're always go go. It's good when we need it, not all the time. You know what I mean, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I think it's like it always comes from like trying to prove yourself, I guess, to like everyone else and maybe even to yourself. So I think sometimes when I'm going through this process, I'm like, I want to feel like I've achieved and be able to say, like, hey, I got through my list. I only have two more things left to do. Ooh, I'm so cool. And then the reality is like, it's okay. No
Yeah,
one else needs to know about how many things are on my to-do list.
I know. Yeah. Sometimes I just add like easy things on my to do list to be like, yeah, check that off. You know what I mean?
You
It
feel so
feels
much
good.
better about yourself.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It feels good. Where do you think that comes from, Naomi? On from you, when it comes to like, I need to feel productive.
Um, I genuinely think it's kind of like proving myself, sort of like what you were just saying, like an identity thing.
But for
I don't
who
know.
though? Like you for you, like I need to prove my where does that come from?
I think childhood. 100%. I think I've always had to like kind of like prove myself. When I was like in elementary school, like even going back that far, it was like, oh, this girl, she can't do math. And I was like, yes, I can. And boom, I had to like show myself, like, oh, this girl like can't, I don't know, play tennis. And it's like, yes, I can. And it's like those little things about like trying to just like prove that I actually can do something and I'm just as good as everyone else. I think all of us, I, at least like my friends in dental school, like when we've talked about this, you just want to prove that you can get those grades, that you deserve to be there. And like, I don't know. I think just getting through these lists just further proves like I'm capable, that I belong here and I can do this. And I'm like, who am I showing this to? No one
Yeah.
gives a crap.
Did someone tell you you can't do your own practice or you can't own your own business or something? Or
I don't think anyone's like flat out told me directly like that, but I think I've gotten questioned like by people who don't really understand the space, or, maybe owning a business or anything of that sort is just not for them. It's like, oh, but don't you want a family in the future? Oh, but like, do you want like, are you going to be able to like have a life outside of this? Like, oh, like what about this? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I can do it.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
it's
guess you're right.
I don't know. It's weird. It really just depends on like who you're talking to. Like I think most of my immediate friends are like gung ho hype people that are like, yeah, you can do it. Like you can do everything you want. You might not be able to be 100% in everything, but like you can definitely do it. Um, but I've definitely had people who are like, oh, I don't know. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you trying to prove yourself? Why are you doing XYZ? Why are you traveling? And I'm like, all right, just leave me alone.
Yeah. Why are you? I don't know. If people ask me like, why are you traveling? I'm like, why not? Like, that's where like, open up your mind. I don't know. I just feel like that would be a weird one. When it comes to the atomic habits or habits, what are some habits you're looking to build or implement or like be consistent with throughout this
um,
process and this year?
I think like maintaining like time to myself. And I know that sounds silly, but I realized, I think, especially in these like past few months, how much I really need like structure to my day. And part of that is like, for example, working out. It's so easy to just be like, oh, hey, like I don't want to do this and I don't feel like working out today. And it really does make like a massive like impact on me, both like in the dental chair, like working with kids, you're bent over in odd positions, like just trying to do what you have to do. Um, but it was hard for me to want to be active. I think my natural tendency is like, I have so much I have to do. I'm going to sit on this couch, just do whatever it is I have to do. Like, this is more important than those like 30 minutes of activity. And, it works for like a month or two, like maybe, sure, okay, but I don't feel great about myself. But anytime I do actually actively try to make that decision to do Pilates specifically is like what I really like. Um, I just leave feeling so much better and like ready to take on the day. And that mental shift, it's like, it's almost like a high. You keep forgetting like how good it feels. So I'm trying to be a lot better about like making sure I schedule something a certain amount of times a week, almost like a meeting,
Hmm.
and just going for it.
Yeah. So then how many times a week are you doing that?
Pilates, my goal is 3 because I realize in person is just like way better for me with those sort of classes. And just personally, I want to get a little bit better at yoga just for like flexibility, tight hips, like that sort of stuff. My goal is at least like 1 time a day right now, or 1 time a week. So 4 times a week, I think is good for me and probably more realistic because if I make it too high, I'm going to feel really crappy about myself.
Yeah. So somewhere I read there's this newsletter that I'm a part of. This called like the Farnham Street, or I forgot. It, it's
Mm.
it's it's pretty cool. Anyways, they spoke about how sometimes when it comes to exercising, it's better to do it daily because if you do it like, I don't know if I agree or disagree with this, but if you do it like 2 or 3 times a week, you have time in your mind or space where you're like, I'll do it for tomorrow. I'll do it for the next day. And you know what I mean? I still have 4 days during the week to do it. Don't worry. And then you start skipping and skipping. But if you have a commitment where it's like every day, you don't have time for your system. If your system fails, you just go with routine, right? So you're just like,
Oh,
well, the routine is I have to go no matter what. I have to go no matter what. There's no time to for the system to fail, kind of thing. Does that
actually,
make
that's
sense?
really interesting. I should like So my boyfriend, he does it like basically every day. Specifically, he just likes to run for 20 minutes and then do whatever he likes to do in the gym. But he despises running. Hates it, like does it, but he still sticks to it. And I remember like asking him, being like, why do you keep doing this? If you're miserable, like, why are you doing something, even if it's 20 minutes that you like just absolutely dislike? He's like, it doesn't even have to be running, like any sort of cardio, I'm going to dislike. So it's just like getting there, doing it. It's just become such a part of the routine now that I don't want to like sway away from it, because I think it's just going to upheave like everything. And I think that, to your point, like I think if you make it part of your day or figure out like a way to make it even part of your week, you are going to stick with it. So with the office opening up soon, I'm going to be in Connecticut while like I still live here in New York. My goal, and the reason I had said the 4 days a week, was because with Connecticut, there is that commute aspect, and I'm sure I will find any excuse to get out of working out in those on those days. I told myself any day I'm in New York, I have to work out. Whether it's like a long walk, even, like I have to do some sort of activity. And
Yeah.
so that's what I'm going to start with. And then hopefully I'll be able to like also include Connecticut into that.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. I don't do even workout every day, but I just thought like that, what your boyfriend said, like the routine, right? Like, and I
Mhm.
remember when we were at the making of a dental startup, there was another guy, I forget his name. Sorry if you're listening, man. I forgot your name, but you were like the biggest, swollest guy in the gym. So I know you know who I'm talking about. Like, I know you know who he is or who you are. But and he's just like, it's all about just the routine right now. Like he wasn't worried about like, oh my God, because he probably could have lifted hundreds, right? And he's like, there's
Mhm.
no hundreds here. What the heck? There's no point, right? But he was just like, it's all about the routine. And so I was like, oh, that's a good way to look at it, right? When your system fails, just stick to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
kind of thing. So, anyways, something we can all like, I think about whenever it's business or anything, you know?
Oh, totally. I think like I usually like to gift like books, if anything, for people. I think I might start to give like Atomic Habit as like the book I want to give to people. Like I just think it's like such a great read.
Yeah,
So,
super, super. One thing I really like about him is well, everything else, but like, it's only him and his assistant.
what do you mean?
He doesn't have a big team. He doesn't have anything like that. It's just him and one
Really?
assistant. Yeah, for
That's
everything.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. So
Oh my
I was,
gosh.
I heard of that and I was like, man, he must be really intentional with what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, or else he'd be spread thin. But yeah, I thought that was
Wow.
really interesting. Yeah, yeah, pretty cool. Anyways, all right, let's dive into the floor plan. Let's talk about everything with that has to entail, including construction costs. So,
Ooh.
how much has construction costs been to date?
Okay, so when I was initially bidded, it was close to like four, I think I want to say like 449. So
Hmm.
nothing like too wild, but since then, it's definitely closer to about like 25% more. So I would say upwards of like 575 at this point.
What
It's been a lot.
is there a limit or no?
What do you mean?
Like, what bank were you with again?
I was with like a local bank here
Okay,
in
never
like
mind, never mind. Yeah,
Poconos. Yeah.
because you know how like Bank of America or other banks they kind of like allocate. They're like, okay, no, you reached almost at this point for that, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, so far, what's good about like working with a smaller bank, at least in my experience, has been there is like the construction loan as or the construction part of the loan, but it's a little bit more fluid. So the reason they gave me more working capital was to account for, these random changes that like might be happening with like the construction bids and everything as we move forward. So luckily, I haven't been dealing with some of the stories I'm hearing about through like Bank of America and Wells Fargo, where I heard that they are like, "Oh, we're only giving you 500,000. The rest you got to figure out." Like,
Yeah,
luckily, I haven't been in that boat, thankfully. So I am an advocate for these small banks if you
that's
can get
nice.
it.
No, that's really really good. When it comes to your floor plan, did you design it? How'd you design it? How did you come up with it?
Um, so this was actually like kind of hard. Part of I really cared about the design of the practice, like with kids. Something as simple as like a sharp edge versus like a rounded edge, all of that sort of stuff
Hmm.
really mattered to me. You see pictures of the office, you'll see that like I don't have like many sharp edges. Everything has been rounded off. The design has been placed around like kind of like arch shapes or circle shapes. So I knew that that was something I really wanted. That was part of the experience part of like experiencing Little Dente.
Hmm.
So I definitely wanted to find a designer that like I could work with. Problem was is I didn't know if I had the budget to do that. So there's actually oh my God, I think his name is Mick Smile Houston. He
Mick
was on
Smile Houston.
no, like the office is called Smile SMYL. They were on making of oh
Oh, Mitchell McTeer.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Smile.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was listening to his episode and he worked with a designer called Studio Gale. And I remember marking it down and I reached out to them and I just love their work. Honestly, like they're a husband and wife, Corey and Rebecca. They are just absolutely fantastic. From a design perspective, from like both for floor plans as well as like interior design. They they're just honestly the sweetest people like
Hmm.
ever, and I'm so thankful that like I got that connect to them. Um, so they cost around like 10,000 in order just to do like the floor plan, I believe.
Wow.
And that might have included that's Corey's role, and that might have included Rebecca helping with like finishes for like, the flooring, the lights and all that stuff. I so early on in the process was a little bit worried about bringing that on only because I didn't know what was going to happen as we continued the rest of the process, and I didn't want to worry about $10,000 being used early on for something that could have helped me like actually open on time. So Beacon, the construction company that I work with, they have in-house designers. So if you work with them for the design, they'll credit back whatever you paid for that towards the build out costs. So there was a guy named John Malone
Hmm.
that worked with them. I guess John was someone that had his own dental design thing, and then Beacon hired him in house or something of the sort. And he was fantastic to work with. I think he just like really understood what I was trying to do. We went through a lot of changes just because of like the realistic nature of like my space, but he was absolutely amazing. And so I'm grateful that like I had that opportunity and I didn't land up with like something cookie cutter because I would have been so disappointed.
Yeah. How do you know if it's cookie cutter or not?
Cookie cutter to me was just like, I don't know, like something that there wasn't much thought to. So it's like you could just like have a hallway and then you 90 degree make it to a right, and like there just like wasn't, I don't know, there wasn't much like thought into like the design and flow and all of that. And like
Yeah.
I think more often than not, like you see cookie cutter designs come from these like dental supply groups like Patterson. Like when you work with them, they're just trying to figure out a way for the equipment to fit in. There's not much thought into like the design, like something rounded or flow and like things like that.
Gotcha. So then what changes did you and like John Malone have to implement?
So he kind of gave me like some good advice. Like when we first had our intro call together, he said, you create a list of like things that you absolutely want. Um, you know, do you want like an entrance and an exit? Do you want an employee exit? Do you want the bath and employees to have their own bathroom? Do you want your own private bathroom? Do you want just like all these things that might be your wants? And then also at the same time, write your own cons. Like what are some like, things that you absolutely do not want in your office whatsoever? It doesn't matter.
Mm.
Um, and then in those wants specifically, make it like the absolute must. Like these are non-negotiables, like, whatever. And then you can kind of start to rank the other ones as to, all right, if I don't get like a separate exit, like, is it the end of the world? Like, if I don't get my own private bathroom, is it the end of the world? So that's like basically what I did. And I think it really helped navigate like what was actually important to me. So initially, I really wanted separate entrance for the patients and a checkout area. Like I didn't want them to be using like the same door,
Hmm.
I guess. I just thought the flow would be better. I wanted my patients and my employees to have like separate bathrooms. I personally just worked in offices where everyone used the same like one or two bathrooms and it just like, I don't know, as an employee. It just didn't feel very nice.
Why? Why
Um,
didn't that feel nice?
I don't know. It just like kind of felt gross. Like I, don't- I know that's so weird, but it's like there's one my first office, the one that I used to work in Connecticut, there was only two bathrooms for like all these employees, like all the doctors, all the patients that just like went through. And I was like, man, like don't I get like a little bit of a private space? Like everyone sees when I'm like in and out of, I don't know. I would just like, can it be like hidden away from the patients at
Okay,
least?
okay, now I get it. Now, at first I was like, "Are you above?" No, just kidding. No, but I was just thinking more like, I get it though. I 100% get you where you're walking out and then like the kids see you and you're like, "I'm next." You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or like
like
if you know what I mean, if it's me, I'm like, "Man, you got to give it like 10 minutes before you get in there," kind of thing, you know? And then the patients coming in like, then you sit them down and the patient's looking at you like, I know what you did. I know what you did in there, kind of thing, right? So it's weird.
well,
I get you.
yeah, and there's like so many weird things, like especially with kids, like parents are changing diapers in the bathroom, like who knows how many, I don't know. It was just like nice to have like my own space. I haven't really gotten that in any other office I worked in, so I guess maybe that's a norm, who knows, but anyways, there was like those sort of things. The one thing I was adamant about though was like that bathroom just being separate. Luckily, my building has bathrooms in the hallways for anyone who like comes in. So I'm using that as like the patient bathrooms. And then I kept like one employee bathroom for just like the employees.
Cool. Okay. So those are the things. I guess how did you know you what you absolutely wanted? Like, did you do research or was it just through experience? Like, how?
It was definitely experience. I think just working in various offices, just naturally over time, like I would always be like, oh, I don't like this. Like this is so annoying. If I had my own office, I would do this.
Mm,
So it was like little things like that. Like for example, once again in that Connecticut office, no hate to this office. It's just like,
yeah.
things I picked up. We're very different. Um, they only had like one entrance and exit. Like so it was a little bit chaotic at like the front desk. Just because they didn't have like a separate person just for checkout. They didn't have a separate person for check-ins. So there would be like mishmash of so many people in like the waiting room just causing like chaos. It was little things like that that I just like was picking up on. I'm like, how can I solve that in like my design and all of that? So yeah,
Gotcha. Okay. And then what were like the cons where that he said
absolutely
could,
like those.
yeah.
Um, I didn't want my office space, like my personal office, to be shared with anyone. So I was in my other offices, like the doctor's space and the admin, like even office manager were shared. That was an immediate no. I need my own space. That is like absolutely like what a non-negotiable there in terms of like whatever. Then I also didn't want everything to be private. So I was like, um, I need the balance between an open bay as well as like private rooms. I didn't want like all private things like that. And then what was my other one? One thing I absolutely didn't want. Oh, a small reception.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was like, I want something like big enough so I have enough staff so I'm not dealing with like chaos. My space is like 2,500 square feet or a little over it, but the usable is only 1,800. So I wanted to be able to like maximize like how I was like using my space for the patients and parents and like the kiddos screaming and all that stuff. I just didn't want a small little office and like dealing with like not having space for expansion. So reception was like an area that I was like, I want something bigger.
Gotcha. Okay. Why didn't you want private offices?
I I think that they're, you know, with kids, you bring families. So like it'll be like siblings kind of coming together. And I'm going to use the Connecticut office again.
You hate that office. No,
No,
just kidding.
no,
I'm
I feel
kidding.
so bad that I'm like saying this, but they used to do cleanings in the private rooms and the hygiene area just, and this was just the way the office like particularly ran. It was like really for like 8 and older. That was only with hygiene. I know other offices will do like 3, 4 onwards. Anyways, there would be a family of 3 in these like private rooms, like basically, you're doing back-to-back cleanings. It was just like chaotic. Like it felt so tight with so many people like in the room.
Mhm.
I just feel having an open bay allows for like better fluidity. You can kind of like put families there, you can put them next to each other. It was just things like that that I was like, I just don't want to deal with this. I hate like claustrophobic feelings, and I hate
Oh,
yeah, uh,
yeah.
those little things were just like super important. I just wanted fluidity.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get you. And then what changed where you're like, oh, that was almost like I almost didn't like, you know what I mean? It was like almost on the want list where you're like, crap, it changed.
Yeah. Um, so one of them was where the employee bathroom is. I just thought it would be nicer to be able to separate like the two, where I have the employee room and then I have like the bathroom. Um, and unfortunately, just with like the spacing and like plumbing sort of stuff like in the building, the employee bathroom had to be put in the employee room. So yeah, it was like the best compromise like I could basically make. But like wherever people are eating lunch, there's like a bathroom in there as well, and like whatever. It's the employees' little section. Yeah.
How big is
Um,
the employee room?
oh, I don't know. I think it's pretty sizable though, because I'm putting a washer dryer in there. There's gonna be like the closet. It's like there was enough. There, it's a pretty good space compared to the other offices I worked in. So
Gotcha. Oh,
yeah,
okay. Yeah, that's not like super bad, but
but it was like annoying because I really didn't want to do that. The other thing is like I didn't. I wanted a separate employee entrance so that they wouldn't like walk through the
mm,
reception. That just didn't work out. Also, with the layout, like my landlord requires like particular doors to be installed so that everyone has like a unison look, and those doors are stupidly pricey. So it would have cost me an additional like $7,000 to put that door in, and I was like, yeah, not worth it.
yeah.
So nixed. And
Next.
then the other one was where my personal office is. I personally have noticed when I practice, I like to escape. Sometimes like I'll escape to like the back room to check the x-rays there versus like in the midst of the office, like kind of just have a moment to like see it myself. And um I just kind of like doing that. I don't really know why. It's just kind of like maybe how I operate. So in my mind, I was like, great, that would be like towards the back. No one can see me. Like I can just like go back there, but I just couldn't make it happen.
Mm.
So my personal office is basically right off the reception.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, I can see that because I remember like sometimes patients would get there like really early, right? Like before
Hmm.
lunch or whatever, and you're still having lunch, and then you're walking in, and sometimes they'd say like, "Oh, I'm here before you," or like, "You're late. I'm here." You know what I mean? And it's kind of you're not, late, but you're just really early, dude,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that can be
So
kind of annoying.
that part's going to be, I think that's going to be an adjustment for me because if I walk out of the office, like I'll see the people in the waiting room versus like that's usually the place I try to avoid. So,
Try to avoid it.
so yeah, that's not ideal, but yeah,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
open bay. So I'm happy. I was able to fit 3 chairs in there. I got my 2 private op rooms, and then I got a third one that it's either going to turn into an infant room or in the future it could turn into an op room if I really, really need it.
Yeah. Okay,
So
that's pretty good. That's good.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
any unexpected construction costs so far?
Yeah. So when they're going through the bids, or basically when you're given sort of like your proposal, they kind of give you average pricing of like things like permits, kind of the cost to bring in like different people. And so maybe it's just like where I'm opening up in Connecticut, but like the town of Darien was a little bit pricier. So permit costs have been a little bit more expensive than expected. I would say it's come out to $4,000 to $5,000 more.
Mhm.
Than if you remember from like past conversations we've had. But my landlord has just been like kind of like a pain to work with. So one of the things has been like electric. Um, that electric cost me an additional like $28,000. And then yeah, and
Man.
I know. And then these doors that he wants, we when we were going through the negotiations and the design for this place, we asked if we could have like more than just like the entrance in my space, like leading out to the hallway. We just wanted to make sure it was okay to put other doors. And he was like, yeah, as long as it matches all the other glass doors there. My building was like a new build out space, like just in general, everyone that's moving in, we're all first timers in the location. So at the time that we were going through these negotiations, they were your standard glass doors that you can get from like any construction company, Home Depot, like whatever. So I was like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, whatever. It might cost like an extra couple hundred, not a big deal. No, the doors that he chose were like these bougie, like all technical electric, like the door unlocks and opens like through my phone, through like it's like definitely high end, but these doors cost like $7,500 each. And I was like, excuse me. So that was like an additional, like, I think with like the installation plus like all the electric part that has to go through the door and the door itself, it came out to like 10,000.
Man. So that's
Yeah.
let me ask you, how do you think, or could it have been, but how do you think some of this could have been prevented?
I think one thing is, and I guess I was just very unaware of it because I haven't personally spoken to people or heard about this being as much of an issue as it was for me, getting the specifics down with the
Mhm.
landlord in the get-go. Like if they're requiring you to have like specific doors, for example, specific blind colors to match like the outside of like everywhere else, specific door handles, which is another thing that like my landlord apparently wants. It's it getting those specifics down early on, I think are so essential because also it helps your construction company too. Like they're making all these orders, and then lo and behold, we're finding out like some of the stuff that we're ordering, we didn't even know that the landlord needed or wanted like something even more specific than what we got. And then it's just like cost and labor and all those prices going up. So yeah,
Just a lot.
basically, yeah, that was like not at all what I was expecting. I almost would have thought that if you were, I guess maybe from like just like a practicality and ethics point of view, like if you're requiring your tenants to have something so specific, I think you should be telling them exactly what you need. So that part isn't making sense to me. So if, yeah.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, how do you know? Like, I mean, you can go down a rabbit hole on specifics, right? Like we were like, well, you know what I mean, and write all these things out. But how
Yeah.
specific do you have to get where it doesn't
Well, I
sound
guess
too
like,
ridiculous?
well, like I know like some people do like these like strip malls or like sidewalk like sort of places. Mine is a medical building, so I don't, or like one of those style buildings. So I don't really know if it's just like my type of space, but I think if they're like requiring like certain design decisions and certain stuff, which you'll find out during the lease process, you need to get as specific as possible and ask them to like list everything. Because
Hmm.
I think that's the only way like you would have like a true awareness.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then, how did you find your construction company, Beacon?
It was through the Facebook groups actually. The making of like a dental startup Facebook
Hmm.
groups. I think I was just looking, I typed in like contractor, general contractor, like that sort of stuff. And I was just like trying to get an idea of like what people had used. Beacon came up a few times and I tried doing like my own research just to sort of see. I asked Car if they knew anybody. All I knew is like I wanted to go in with someone who had dental experience. And that was like a non-negotiable for me. I think like with our field, plumbing especially is like such a big thing that like use the wrong angle on this, like it could cause like so much havoc for you and like annoying expenses down the line. I don't know anything about like opening up my own office. I don't know all those like nitty-gritty details. So I wanted to be with someone who actually has done it. So I paid like a little bit probably pricier of an amount versus maybe just going with a GC.
How much was your amount?
Um, I think when they first bid me, it was 49,
Okay.
499. Yeah.
And you were
But
bidding
then
against others or no?
I spoke to a couple of others and they were like cheaper, but it wasn't like so much more. So the building, my building specifically, Tribus, I believe is the construction company that they used, and most of the tenants in the space had used them as well. There was a dental group above me, actually. It's their second location, and they use Tribus. But their construction company had never built a dental office before. So they kept coming down to my guys and asking like questions about like, how do I do this? What do you think of this? And I was like, what? Like, that's That's so insane.
Yeah. No, that's it. Wait, so there's a dental group above you now?
Yeah,
Okay.
an adult
Interesting.
one.
And
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna be good. That's gonna be good. Okay, so then they were asking Beacon how to do things. So when you were bidding against each other, like, or not bidding against each other, but like, did you find bids for other companies and you're like, okay, let me present this to Beacon so I can lower my price a little bit, or no?
No, I genuinely like their price point when they came back at me was very reasonable for like what I was getting, based off of like the square footage and like the Connecticut area and stuff. I forget like the exact numbers, but um, I think the general average, like you tend to hear, is between like 175 to 210 per square foot for like a build out, with a general contractor. And I was getting around like 220.
Mhm.
So it wasn't like drastically different. And for me, just that dental experience. And to be honest, it's held up. Like that part of like Beacon has been amazing. Like working with them, like all of that stuff. Like I just feel like safe that they know what they're doing. They've like
Yeah.
guided me through a lot.
Yeah. No, that's really, really good. And then they work with, they're the ones who work with Corey and Rebecca.
So they no, no. They worked with John Malone. Corey and Rebecca of Studio Gale, like I found them out through my own. But with that being said, I brought Corey and Rebecca on for lighting and finishes. And that's when Beacon and Corey or Beacon and Studio Gale have like started talking, and they have now like such a good relationship. Like Beacon raves about them, saying like they are definitely like some of the best people like I've worked with. Corey responds right away. Rebecca is really great. Like, so I think it just speaks volumes to like who Studio Gale really is. They're fantastic.
Yeah. Studio Gale. Wow. Okay. And then John Malone, was he the architect you said, or who was he?
He was the guy who basically did my design.
Hmm.
Beacon has like in-house architects, I think just like kind of take it and just like make sure all those like little nitty-gritty details. So I didn't have to hire my own architect, luckily.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay. So then looking back or looking forward, what mistakes or things do you feel you possibly missed or maybe you didn't take into consideration?
Storage.
Oh,
Um, yeah, like I definitely accounted for it as much as I could. Um, I guess I kept thinking like, oh, like, if my ceilings are like 9 foot high, like my stuff is only going to be like 6 feet high. So that means I have like 2 to 3 extra feet like
yeah.
above it, so vertical. Um, but sterilization specifically, I think it's like that one, I don't know if others feel this way, but like it's that one part of the job that I just don't, that's like the least I know. And
Hmm.
I guess I didn't really take into account like that flow that well. I was like, okay, yeah, just like put storage, like whatever needs to be done. All I know is like let's put some cabinets in there, but I also know I want open shelving and blah blah blah. Um, I've accounted for it. Like I'm trying to like work with like what I got, but I do wish I was a little bit better about storage for sure.
There's
So
not
that's
enough right now.
I I can see it being an issue, or I'm going to have to just be like very good about like how I handle things. Luckily, like I'm not, I don't know, you kind of tend to use the same stuff over and over again, but I also can totally see like me running into like some issues down the line. So I'm just gonna I think it's gonna be one of those things I have to figure out like as I go.
Yeah. That's going to be
I
interesting.
personally, yeah, I'm personally a minimalist, so it's like hard for me
Yeah.
to think that stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna have tons of things. And I'm like, oops.
Are you a minimalist like with your like whole life or your like place or how?
More my place. I don't think like life, but I,
Yeah.
I do like the idea of like not having like too much. Like I think I've accumulated over the years, and as I've been like letting go, it's just been like nicer and nicer to like have less and less. But like even I don't know, like little things like I have patient tote bags for all the new patients. There's like 500 tote bags. So where am I going to be putting them all? Like how am I going to be
Oh
doing this?
yeah.
It's like little things like that sort of storage that like I'm trying to figure out. So luckily, like, it's just going to be me and someone else initially. So like my admin office that I created is like going to be empty at first. So I'm just going to use whatever space I currently have and then like figure out how I'm going to build out from there.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Man, you're gonna have to really think about that. No, I asked that because like I like to say like I'm a minimalist. So I'm like, yeah, I only have like a specific amount of shirt. And then my wife's like, you have 5 white shirts, same white shirts all the time. And you wear one for every day. And I'm like, right. I don't. So
Be Steve Jobs.
yeah, I'm like, and I wear like the same other one all the time. You know what I mean? Instead of the other. So I don't know. I'm not one, but I like to think I am. But
Over
anyways,
the past couple years, I have been very like we have so many seasons out here. So I've been like, okay, these are my winter clothes. Anything I do not wear more than once, I am tossing. So like I think over the past couple years, seasonally, my stuff has been getting like a little bit less and less.
little
But
bit like better and
yeah.
better.
But
Ah.
meanwhile, like if you sat in my apartment right now, you would not be thinking I'm a minimalist or like have that because like I have so much crap everywhere right now. Like just the volume of things I've been ordering has been like insane. So like looking at this corner of my apartment, I don't even want to like look at it. It stresses me out.
Oh yeah, that's true. So then that's gonna be the feel of your office, kind of like a minimalist.
Yeah, I've
Minimalist.
kind of taken that route. I just personally don't do well in clutter. I get like very overwhelmed. Um and I don't know. I don't think you need that much. Like I have like the colorfulness. I have like the fun stuff like for the kids these days, like with the TV, the goodie bags and like all that stuff. But I don't feel like I need to like fill, for example, my waiting room with tons of toys and like arcade games and like all that stuff. Like, I don't know, not my cup of tea. And
Yeah,
I'm not trying to keep the kids around in the office for more than like an hour. So yeah.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
nice. They'll start
Yeah.
crying and everything like that. But awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else? What's next?
Mm. So I feel these next 3 weeks are going to be like a little bit insane. I still have to buy all my office supplies, like printers, like even my own desk still. Like it just feels like there's so many like little things I have to do. But my first employee is going to be starting with me in a few days, which is exciting. So I'm going to start like training her. We're going to do like a bunch of onboarding things together. I was trying to figure out how I want to actually use her because I do really want her to not just like, I want her to get to know the office, like from the nitty gritties, like the inside out. So
Mhm.
I kind of want to take, I want her to like start like researching into local businesses, like being the face, like a little bit to go out and like introduce herself to the office because it's not always going to be me.
Mhm.
Um, Little things like that. I'm just trying to figure out how I want this to like go, but I'm excited and also freaked out that someone is going to be relying on me for a paycheck. But
I know it sounds cool, but then you're like, when they're actually relying on you, you're like, oh man.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly. I'm like, oh my goodness.
yeah.
So
Uh,
that part's happening. My understanding is we're going to be having the inspector come in very shortly. So hopefully I get like my certificate of occupancy soon. And now just planning in all these like little last minute things like the onboarding stuff, the photo shoots, like right now I'm also trying to figure out social media. So
oh
it's a
yeah.
lot. Yeah, I think this is a week I'm going to be going hard with like the Facebook ads, Google AdWord, and all that stuff. That's going to be starting this week. So hopefully I'll have some updates as to how that's going. But right now I'm just trying to tackle the social media aspect as much as possible.
Yeah. Look into the pediatric marketing, dental marketing course. Like, I mean,
Oh,
all covers
totally.
that whole social media side. So like to plan that
Yeah.
on your own, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. No. So I did do that. I actually decided to last week. I decided to hire someone for the first few months, just because I'm realizing I don't think I have that capacity in me right now. I don't want to be spending too much time on it, but I do plan on taking it over again, or like maybe decreasing her role.
Mhm.
Once things like settle down like a little bit more. I think unfortunately, just like with these 3 weeks, it's just going to be too insane for me to focus.
Yeah.
So
No, I
yeah,
get
but
you.
I agree. I think it's something I can definitely take on. That part of the course, I listened to it. It's really, really good. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be implementing parts of it.
One thing, like, this is just me. This is just me. I mean, you can be like, Michael, this is stupid. I don't care what you say. Like, that I realized is at first, we did hire like people outside, but they never really got like what I wanted to, right? Like the brand, the image, the copy, whatever. I'm just like, it's not there, but it's good enough.
Yeah.
Now when it came to the like me wanting that, right? Like, because what do they go on there and then they're like, hey, Lil Dente is like this and that, we're the best, and you're like, we sound too salesy, right? So then you kind of have to go through like all that hiccups. Maybe if you want, like for the first week, like record yourself, like Loom or whatever, literally writing it out like a post, how you do it, how you do everything like that, and then boom, you made like a system, and then you're like, this is how I want things to look, right? So they have like an outline and map, and then kind of go from there.
That's
Then
actually
they
so interesting. Yeah, like I never thought about it from that point of view. I think one of the hardest things I've been having is to communicate like the brand. Like I tried to create a deck, I've tried to do all that stuff just to like say what are my pillars, like here's some visuals, like my website's done. Here are some like assets that I have. But when I got like this first round back of like these are the posts for the month of January up until opening, I was so disappointed. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, is this me? Like, what is going on?" And I asked a couple of friends, I was like, "Is it me? Or is this like, you know, I'm just being picky or something of the sort?" And I got like some constructive feedback. So I'm actually going to be talking to her after you and I finish chatting. And I think that's a really great idea. Maybe that is something I should do and like let her know, like, hey, I'm going to be doing this, like take the feedback and like see how I'm trying to like sound and like
yeah,
take it from there. I love that.
but just don't do like a whole month's worth or like even a week's worth, even, right? Like just like depending on how many posts you do a day or whatever, just like a one or whatever, and just record it. That way she doesn't have or he doesn't have any, like, you know what I mean? Kind of like, oh, well, I'm still trying to figure it out. You're like, I recorded it for you, kind of thing. Yeah. So
No, I
I don't know.
love No, no,
Yeah.
that's really great because I think also just say if things don't work out with her or someone else, I have that to give. That's like a great like educational tool I can give to someone else as well.
For the next person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
awesome. Awesome, Naomi. Alrighty. So then sign us out.
All right. Well, this is Naomi. I'm part of Little Dente. We have our Instagram going to be launching, and I promise it'll be good social media after this call. We're Little Dente Smiles. And then my personal Instagram is Dr. Naomi Sedani.
Awesome,
And
guys. So
this is
go that's in the show notes below. Sorry, I cut off your outro. Continue.
Oh, I was saying this is the making of.
The making of what?
Little Dente. Oh, I swear I need to write this down and I'll finally get it on the very last episode. I promise.
Is a thing. No, but awesome, guys. So check out her links in the show notes below and talk to you next week, Naomi.
Bye. See you soon.